Warning, the following podcast is brought to you by dads who are still figuring out how to fold a fitted sheet. Welcome to the All Pro Dad Podcast.
Hey, welcome to the All Pro Dad Podcast. My name is Ted Lowe, and I am joined today, we're remote today, all across the globe with BJ Foster and Bobby Lewis. BJ, Tell everybody where you are.
Hey, Ted, I'm in Oklahoma City, right
Bobby,
here, smack dab in the middle of the country.
Smack dab, representing everybody from Atlanta West.
I'm over here in Tampa, Florida this morning. Far more palm trees than BJ's house.
Definitely.
I'm here in Atlanta, Georgia. It's good to be with you guys. When we first started this podcast, and I think I've shared this with you guys before, but when we first started it and they told me the name of the podcast was going to be All Pro Dad Podcast, I thought, I'm going to get destroyed by my friends. I just know I am. And sure enough, I did. One of my buddies texted me and goes, "Oh, so you're a professional dad now." I thought, here it comes. And then my son's girlfriend says to me, she says, "So are you the All Pro Dad?" And I'm thinking, I wish we'd have called this like Average Dads That Are Trying Extra Hard. I think that it wouldn't fit on hats, though. So I got told a big fat no. But I think people listening, I think our listeners, the lion's share of them would be like, hey, I'm trying. I'm really trying. But we all mess up except for BJ. BJ,
Yeah.
Have you ever messed up before as a dad?
Oh my gosh, yes. Like there's so many stories that come to mind. It's tough to even know what to pick. But the first one that kind of comes to mind is we were going on a trip one time, and I think my kids were like 5 and 4, and I was packing the car and I was just finishing up, and my 4-year-old daughter sort of saunters out the front door and she was like, "Daddy, can I ride inside the car?" And I thought, what an odd question. Like, where else are you going to ride? Like, I just started to have all these jokes kind of come to mind. And so I knelt down right in front of her and I said, "No, honey, I'm sorry. We need somebody to stay back here at the house."
Oh.
And we kind of thought that you would be the perfect person for that. So thank you for staying back here and making sure that the house is okay. And I don't know why I thought she would laugh at that. But she immediately started bawling, crying. And I mean, it sounded like her foot fell off. Like it was like I just kicked her right between the eyes. And she started screaming, crying. And my wife came running out like, "What's the matter?" And she's, in tears. "Daddy said I had to stay at the house." And my wife is looking at me like, "What in the world? Like, why would you say something?" And I just was like, I thought she would laugh, and that just made things worse. And so yeah, I got to tell you, it was a pretty quiet first hour of that that trip. So
yeah, I think that's definitely a mess up. So
Yeah, but
it's terrible.
You didn't actually ignore physical pain. I did that. We were on vacation once, and my daughter, I think she was 10 at the time, we were on vacation. The first 5 minutes, she slipped on some leaves and fell and tried to break her fall and landed on her wrist, and she broke her wrist. And I was like, "Oh, well, we got vacation this week. We got stuff to do." And but she has such a high pain tolerance. I kept asking her over and over again, like, "Are you okay? Like, you all right?" And she's like, "I think I'm okay." And I just didn't investigate it further. And then we got home like a week and a half later, took x-rays. And sure enough, I made her walk around, the Great Smoky Mountains with a busted wrist for a week. I'm like, "Oh, sorry, kid." So yeah, that was a little bit of a mess up.
Could have been worse if she was like, "Dad, it really hurts. Like, I think I need to go to the doctor." I probably would have been like, "You're fine.
Yeah.
Stop being so dramatic."
Well, that's the tricky part. Like she didn't really complain that much. I think it's because she didn't want to inconvenience anybody else on vacation, but she really was hurting. She just didn't let on that she was hurting. And so in my dad mind, I'm like, "All right, well, I guess you're fine. You said you're fine." I probably should have investigated further since she was broken, literally broken. But that's one mess up. I'm sure there's many more.
Oh gosh, how much time do you have?
A lot. Let's share them all.
Let's share them all. That's like novels and novels. The first one that sticks out to me is my son when he was 2, my first son. We're outside playing, having a great time. And I set him on my shoulders and I just walk into the garage. Turns out when he's on my shoulders, his head was right level with bricks. And so it throws him all the way back and I've got his little feet and I'm like, oh, I'm a terrible, terrible, terrible human.
At least you didn't let go of his feet. Like that could have been worse.
Yeah. I was thinking maybe, like his knee sockets, hit his head and his ankles.
It probably did. And I'm like, Bobby, we didn't check on it until he was 16.
Could you imagine what he was thinking? Like put yourself in his shoes. Like he sees the bricks coming. He's like, Dad, bam. Right.
God, this is who you gave me for a dad. Here I am, just 2 years on this earth, and this is the guy. But when they got older, the emotional mistakes is one of that just kill me, And I've shared this, but so many times, but I think it just matters. But just when my girls would get what I call too dramatic, I'd be like, oh, I can't do this right now. I can't handle you right now. I can't deal with you right now. And my daughter, now that she's in college and they all sit around and talk about how bad their parents are, because that's what you do in college. No, I'm teasing. No, she has said to me, she said, that made me feel abandoned. And so she's finding her vocabulary for this, which, which is not wrong, right? But yeah, I think we all mess up, right?
Yeah.
We just do.
It's when kids get in their 20s, that's when their frontal lobe, starts to come together, and then they realize that they need therapy from all the things that we did to them, and then they come back to us, and then all we have to do is like, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that's it. It doesn't feel good, but the response is simple. I am so sorry. I am so sorry. That's understandable.
Right.
That makes sense. But
so my kind of latest emotional one. So this happened in the past year. So my son got into an car accident last April, and he had his license for like 4 or 5 months at the time. So it was still pretty new, kind of a thing. I've talked about it before. It ended up being his fault. It was a Porsche SUV. I love that aspect of it. But the night after it happened, I went for a walk with my wife and we were talking about it. And she was like, I'm so glad you added him to our insurance. And I was like, yeah. And then immediately it was like in front of my eyes floated our insurance card, and I could just clearly see like our 2 names on it. And, it was like just floating in my mind in front of me. And I was like, yeah, I think I did that. And this is like a Sunday night. So it's like, we can't, we got to wait till the next day to call. And so I call the next day, and they're like, and the insurance guy's like, yeah, I don't see your son's name on the policy. And so long story short, there was a lot that was happening around that time that he got his license. I thought I'd put him on, but I hadn't added him. Ooh. And so they fortunately covered the other car, or else I would be selling my house to pay for it. Yeah. But they wouldn't cover our car. So our car, and he got broadsided. This is not a fender bender kind of a thing. So we have this smashed up car in our garage, and it is, and I explained to my son over and over, when this accident happened, he was like, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I'm so sorry. And we were like, and of course, ironically, I was like, buddy, it's fine. That's what insurance is for. And so anyway, it was this big emotional thing for him. And I've tried to explain to him over and over again, hey, this is the accident. Yeah, it might've been your fault, but the fact that the car's not fixed, like, that's my fault. But it remains this reminder to both of us every single time we walk into the garage. It's we're both reminded of these enormous failures.
It's a 4,000-pound reminder of whoops.
Yeah. 4,000, a 4-digit, a many 4-digit dollar figure.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure all of us could tell 100 stories of how we've messed up as a dad. I mean, I had a similar thing, BJ, where I just didn't add water coverage to our home insurance, and then we had like the sewer back up on accident into our bathroom and like flood the flooring. We had to rip the flooring out, and that was just me trying to save a couple of bucks. Like, oh, maybe we'll be able to take the kids to Disney or something. And now, no, we did. We didn't get to do that.
Never going to Disney again.
Never again. No. So, I mean, I think we've all made, 100 mistakes as dad, 1,000 mistakes as dads. It's really not if we mess up. It's when we mess up. And what are we going to do about it once that happens? And so that kind of leads us to our big question of this episode, which is, what do I do when I mess up as a dad?
Well, and I mean, I think we need to talk about, some of the categories of mess ups, and number one would be the accidents, like yours, Bobby, mine, that have implications on the family, not buckling up somebody the right way, or forgetting something like, some kind of permission slip to do something and then they're not able to go, or, forgetting pickup times or practice schedules and messing up. I mean, that's just kind of one thing that, gosh, I feel like I've messed up a million times.
So true. Another category of mess ups are, and the ones I mentioned earlier, is emotional mess ups, saying something that's going to hurt your kid's feeling, the overreaction about something silly. You look back and go, why did I just get so frustrated about that? Or dismissing their emotions. You're fine. Talked about that before in the podcast, just dismissing our kids' emotion. And then I think there's this one of just that I can forget until it's over. It's just getting too big with my kids, especially when they're little, you're bigger than they are. You have more agency over their life, way more than they do. And so we use that bigness to be scary instead of safe. And so I think those are some of the emotional mess ups that I've done for sure.
Yeah, I think for me, I tend to fall more into another category, which is like a social mess up. Like I've embarrassed them on accident in public, or, just this happened recently. There was a kid over at our house and I forgot their name. I was calling them the wrong name the whole time. And like, that's kind of embarrassing. That's just an accidental mess up, really. They're just socially. But I actually had a situation recently where there was a dad at the hockey rink where my son was playing a hockey game, and you could tell this dad was like flustered, frustrated, and he just snapped on his kid in the hallway because I guess the kid forgot his equipment or something. He's like, I can't believe that, and I was like, that's a little bit of a social mess up, and we're all prone to that. Maybe he was having a bad day, maybe there was something going on, but we do that sort of stuff. We mess up socially and in front of others, and that sticks with kids.
Mm-hmm. Another one would be guidance, advice mess ups, where you give maybe the wrong advice, you give bad advice, maybe you push too hard at the wrong time, maybe you're not encouraging enough. Gosh, the last couple months, I remember I asked my son to come down and clean the kitchen, and he just started to push back, and I was getting frustrated and just kind of said, look, I need you down here to do this now. And I was just getting really frustrated as pushback, and I went back to do something else, and I came out and he was down in the kitchen cleaning. And I thought, boy, what a great time to really kind of push this further, and just started to go, I'm like, look, I don't think it's too much to ask for you to come down here and do this. And I'm tired of the pushback, and, you do this stuff, you push back with your mom all the time. And, and I could see why she gets, and finally he just turned, he said, look, I am here. I'm doing exactly what you asked me to do. He's like, so, can you just back off from me for a second? And I thought, oh, yeah, that's a good point. Maybe I'm pushing a little hard here. He's not happy about being here, but at least he's here and doing what I asked him to do.
BJ, when you get too amped up like that, does your voice go Philly on your kids?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, let's hear that whole scene in Philly.
hear the whole thing and does
Yeah, I
my
wanna hear
accent
that.
go Philly?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, we can't.
no,
We're not going to bleep things out. We're not
no.
going to ask you to do
That's
that
right.
on the podcast.
Okay. That's disappointing.
Yeah,
I
That's
do get
disappointing.
more, but I will say this: my intensity gets Philly. Like I get very, I bow up, I move forward. It's one of those things like I am. In fact, I was even told this after taking a personality test. Like they're like, this guy's super accommodating, but when you reach the core of him, and he doesn't want to budge, it's over. And my wife calls it reaching my Philly. And so when you reach my Philly, it's like, hey, one of us is moving and it's not me. So it's kind of, I get to that
Philly.
level. I just get very intense. But no,
So
the
Philly
accent, I would say the accent comes out in a word here or there. And so I'm not sure, what word I could throw at you, but that's what I've been told. A word here and there comes out.
So we're talking about the categories of fails. We talked about accidental fails, emotional, social, and then BJ, you're talking about guidance and advice. I think one that I think I'm most prone to, and maybe a lot of dads are, is just our presence fails, our presence mess ups. You're physically in the room, but you're not mentally there. You're just on your phone. You're thinking about work. You got these other things going on. You're not really present, even though you're physically there. And that comes through stress. We did a whole episode. We'll link it down in the show notes about being a passenger parent, where you're just kind of around, but you're really not doing anything. That's a mess up as a dad. Your presence is so crucial for your children, and when you withhold that, or when you mess up and you don't do it well, that leaves a little scar on them, and I'm prone to this for sure.
I'm very guilty of that. Very, especially when I was working with teenagers, because I did a lot of my work at night, and I would be speaking a lot, and so I'd be at dinner. And I would be at dinner with the family and just thinking about the next thing that I was going to be a part of. And I just completely wasn't there at all. Well, so we need to talk about action steps. What can we do about this when we mess up? And I think the first thing to do is just to have awareness that we are going to mess up. We are not perfect. We're human. It's okay. And it's going to happen. And we need to create an environment in our home where our kids can kind of point out, or, that they have a freedom to point out when we have messed up. We need to give our wives permission to kind of tell us when we mess up and how we mess up.
I've done that with Nancy over the years, and it's always a great idea when you're living in regret, when you're having the conversation in regret. Oh yeah, just point it out next time. Point it out next time, and then it happens. Like, don't give me that look. Don't give me that look. This is the time where it doesn't matter. This is the time where I'm allowed to overreact. And so, but it's asking them to have a little signal, have a little look. Mark and Susan Merrill, who are the founders of Family First, Susan said that she used to say to Mark, "Hey, Mark, I think you need to get a glass of water." And it's just kind of this signal of like, calm down. But it's having the awareness in the middle of the mess ups. It's having the awareness afterwards. How did I mess up? Why did it matter? Because I think sometimes we miss these little things that were mess ups. And then sometimes we beat ourselves up for things that was like, well, that really wasn't that big a deal. And so it's just this awareness of our behavior and awareness of how we're messing up or not messing up.
Mm-hmm. And we can't be afraid to get their feedback. We can't be afraid to get our kids' feedback. In fact, one of the things that we have is a play of the day. It's an email every single day that you can sign up for. If you go to allprodad.com, you can sign up for that. And every day we give a huddle up question that you can ask your kids. It's a little question to connect with your kids. And one of the questions that we've put out there often for dads is to ask their kids, hey, what's one thing I could be doing better as a dad? And so be open to, when you mess up, taking that feedback, and don't let your pride get in the way and make you defensive. Just kind of listen, hear it, and then try to, move forward from there.
Yeah, I'm afraid the answer would be take me to get x-rays when my arm is broken. Like that would be the answer. It's like, yeah, pay attention when I'm in two pieces, please. That'd be great.
Not making me climb a mountain when I'm in excruciating pain.
It's not like her ankle was broken. Anyway, let's move on. All right. Yeah. Action step number 2, I think for you, Dad, is just own the mess up. Like you have awareness that it's going on, that you have messed up, but then own it. Take responsibility, full responsibility when you screw up, and you will. Don't blame anyone else. Don't make excuses. Admit your mistake, and if you can, do it out loud. Admit your mistake out loud. It's going to show your kids that you really are honest about the situation. That you're not about fake perfection, but you're about like authentically, owning up to your mistakes. That'll help them do the same thing, but also show them that Dad sometimes is going to mess up, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. It's the best way for them to learn, really, responsibility.
Yeah, Bobby, I love that. I think for us, one of our biggest goals as a family, Nancy and I, for our kids, was for our kids to own their behavior and understand and let us know that they understand more than consequences or more of any of those things. We needed and wanted for them to own their behavior. But if we're not owning our own, there's no way you can teach that. So we apologized a lot. We came back to the nots a lot. And so hopefully we modeled that. But I think that's the most important thing, is just owning our behavior in those moments to let them see, hey, we're not perfect, but we do understand where we messed up.
And do not turn that into a lecture. Just leave it. Leave it where it is. Like a lot of times I think we're, hey, I'm really sorry I did that, but you really shouldn't, ... or, and all of a sudden it turns from you taking ownership into this other thing. Leave the lecture at home. Just simply model making amends for the things that you did wrong.
BJ, I know that is one of the things I've heard from you over and over is save the lecture. Stop. Don't turn things into a lecture. How does that apply to when we mess up as a dad?
Well, I think there's 2 huge things. Number one, I kind of feel like we feel like all this pressure on ourselves that we need to make everything a teaching moment. And, let's teach our kids these things. And the reality is the things that you model speak so much bigger than anything that you could ever say. It's not bad to kind of add words to it sometimes. Hey, this is why I do what I do. This is why this is important. But we kind of do that all the time, and it just gets lost. It gets lost, particularly in something like this. When you're taking accountability for something that you did wrong, that speaks so powerfully. And a lecture on top of that it's a whiteout of everything that you just did. Particularly when you turn it back to their behavior. If you turn it back to their behavior and start lecturing them on something they do, or even when you're like, hey, this is a great example of like, look, we need to take responsibility for our actions. Then all of a sudden you're getting boastful about something that you just did. And, so there, it doesn't work in 2 different ways. It just completely erases the power of everything that you just did. So I think a lot of dads, parents in general, need to take some pressure off of themselves from feeling like they need to communicate everything in a lesson. Like your actions and what you live out is going to be 99% of what your kids take away. 99.
We all hated lectures growing up, right? We all did it, and we all heard wah, 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 on and on and on. That's good. Just
can I say one more thing? Like, I'm trying to remember the woman who said this, and maybe we could put it in the show notes or something like that. I can't remember who said it, but it was a teacher. She was doing a TED Talk, and she was talking to another teacher, and the other teacher was like, these kids don't have to like me. Like, they just need to learn the lessons that I'm teaching. And she turned to that other teacher and she goes, yeah, well, kids don't learn from people they don't like. And the more you lecture, the more they're not going to want to be around you.
That's good. So just own it. The opposite of owning it is to lecture after it. Mm-hmm. So own it, Full stop.
Yeah.
That's good, BJ. Thank you for that.
You mentioned whiteout, and for a second there, I zoned out trying to think of the last time I used whiteout. So, but I'm back now. I'm focused.
Well, that's my primary goal, is to get people to zone out. That's what
No, I was like, when's the last time I used that product? Anyway, you kind of alluded to our next action step earlier, BJ, and I think it's worth revisiting because our third action step is to apologize. And at first glance, it kind of feels like you're giving away power, right? Like you're the dad, you're bulletproof, you're big, you're leading, you're in charge of your home, blah, blah, blah. It's actually incredible strength to say you're sorry and not just say generic, sorry, or I'm sorry that hurt your feeling, or I'm sorry you feel that way, but like I'm genuinely sorry for fill in the blank, whatever mess up you did. Look your kid in the eye and say, hey, I'm sorry. I know you wanted to play that board game, but I was focused on my phone for some reason. I'm putting it down. I am sorry for not prioritizing you. Or I'm sorry I yelled. I shouldn't have done that. That's my fault. I love you. I'm not going to do that anymore. I mean, to make it specific in your apology, I think that is taking it to the next level as a dad.
So good, Bobby. And I think it's so spot on. Watching this, now their kids are young adults, or 3 of them are. If they learned one thing from Nancy and me, it was to apologize, because we had to apologize so often. We're both high strung. We both get passionate about things. We get not Philly BJ, but we get Bama on them real quick. I'll tell you what I'm about to do. That was always the line that I would get.
That might be
I'll
scarier.
tell you what I'm about. What?
That might be scarier. You never know.
You don't want none of this. I'm going to cheeseburger you in a minute. So it would be like, what does it look like to be cheeseburgered? That's frightening. But we had to apologize a lot to our kids, and I feel like they're very good at it. I feel like they come back to us now. So if we're talking about messing up, which we are, the apology, so key. It's so key. Another action step, and this one can be tough, is we got to forgive ourselves, right? We're going to mess up, right? We got to learn to forgive ourselves. If we don't, all that guilt just starts to build up. And when it does, it starts to steal our confidence, right? If we're living out of guilt, we're like, I don't feel like I know what I'm doing anymore. It robs our presence because we're living in the past about, I can't believe I did that. And we're not present because we're going, I don't want to do that again in the future. It starts to fuel distance, because we can pull away emotionally. Like if I messed up so much, then maybe the best thing I can do is just pull away. And it creates this cycle that the heavier the guilt feels, the more dad overreacts, and then it piles on more guilt, and around we go. And I just think the bottom line of that is we got to show our kids that we can let go so they can learn to let go. We don't want our kids growing up carrying all this guilt. We want them to know how to process and to own it, but to also at the end of all this processing go, I need to forgive myself. I need to move forward.
Yeah. I think that's a hard one. And I think that's something that a lot of men, I think, really struggle with, is just kind of letting it go. Yeah, that can be, that is something I think we all need to work on. At the same time, after all of this stuff, you apologize to your kids, you try to forgive yourself and move on, and receive forgiveness, which can sometimes be harder than, than anything. But you do need to plan for the next time, and you do need to work on changing. Otherwise, if you continue to repeat the same mistakes over and over and over again, then it kind of communicates this idea that, well, maybe you weren't quite as sorry as you were expressing. Maybe you didn't really mean that. Maybe you were just going through the motions, and we are going to mess up again. Like, I don't want to say that, all of a sudden you ought to be perfect after that. There are going to be mess ups, but you need to try to work on some of this stuff. You mentioned, Ted, you mentioned Mark Merrill and Susan Merrill. Like Mark Merrill, who founded All Pro Dad, he is someone who I really respect because he does work on stuff. Like when he needs to do more encouraging or whatever, he will write it down and he will work on that. When he needs to do stuff in his marriage, stuff with his kids, he used to get made fun of even in Family First. Like, I can't believe you have to write down that you have to encourage your kids. And I look at that and I'm like, that's amazing that he wants to work on it. that he writes it down so he remembers. So we need to, and that encouraged me. Like, I made a whole list of the things that I continually do when I react in negative ways. Like, I wrote down all my triggers and how I wanted to respond instead, just so I'd be prepared. And it helped me eliminate a lot of mistakes moving forward.
Oh, that's great, BJ. I love that. So it's pulling back, stopping, going, okay, here's what I don't want to do again next time. And I think that goes full circle back to talking to our spouse about those of us who are married, to come back and go, okay, what happened? How do I keep that from happening again? It's getting a plan. That's good, BJ.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things, like, let's not expect perfection, and let's not communicate to our kids that we're going to be perfect, but let's communicate to them, especially with our actions, that we are in progression, that there's a progression towards something better.
Yeah. Well, I think it invites our kids to be close to us too. Like, it doesn't invite your kids in closer when you do this sort of stuff and you plan for next time. Let's use an example of the mess up you had earlier, Ted. Like, you whack the kid's face on the garage door, right? And you put them on your shoulders. Like, if you say, "Oh, hey, I'm sorry, buddy," and then the next day you do it again, don't expect him to be ever on your shoulders again, because the kid's going to learn, like, Dad's not really genuine in his apology, and he's not fixing his mistakes. So if you want to have that closeness, this is a great action step for dads.
That's good. Well, and I'm thinking about our listeners and our watchers. They are listening to this or watching this so that next time it does go better, right? So I think we're preaching to the choir, as they say, in a good way, but just reminding us, this is so important to keep coming back to these things, these tools, these play of the days, the podcast, to say, hey, next time I want to do it even better. You guys, this is great conversation. Yeah. Great conversation. So let's just move into our pro move of the week, which is, when you mess up, this is very complicated, say you're sorry. And BJ, I'm going to add your point on there. When you mess up, say you're sorry and stop and don't say anything else. And just, other than tell your kid, hey, you didn't deserve that, and I just love you so much. So it's just those real clear moments. Dad messed up. I'm so sorry. It's good. You guys, I always love having these conversations with you. I feel like I learn something every time. And I feel like when we say goodbye on these episodes, I'm always like, oh, okay, I feel encouraged by this. And we hope our listeners do too. And if you are a listener and you don't know, you can actually watch us on YouTube, which just takes the whole podcast experience to the next level, Bobby and BJ. Don't you think?
Oh, of course.
Oh, there's nothing better than looking at these three guys, for sure.
Yeah, this will make your day. But you guys, thank you. Please go subscribe on YouTube. It'll help other people to find us. But most of all, we want to say thank you for joining us. We know that you and your kids will be glad that you did.
Thanks again for listening to the All Pro Dad podcast. Behind every episode is our amazing team. Producer Haley Mawat, audio and video editor Buck Buchanan, and production coordinator Corey Walliff. All Pro Dad is the fatherhood program of the nonprofit Family First. Along with our motherhood program, iMom, we exist to help you love your family well. So remember, if you have more questions than answers, then you're probably in the right place. See you next time.